The GameCube had a bunch of sick exclusives back in the day. But nobody ever mentions Go-Go Hypergrind as one of those sick exclusives. Have a quick look, and you might be thinking that this has to be the final boss of like 2000s extreme sports, pop-punk, vaguely edgy later-era mascot platformer shovelware. And honestly, you might actually be kinda right to label it as that, but doing so undersells a truly bizarre collaboration between ATLUS, of course primarily now known as the Japanese role-playing game juggernauts behind Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, and Metaphor ReFantazio, and Spumco, the American animation studio behind Ren Stimpy, headed by the now notorious animator and sex criminal John K. Go-Go Hypergrind teams up humble ATLUS during their growing years with washed but pre-registered sex offender era of John K. Imagine having your name attached to Ren and Stimpy adult party cartoon and some flop skateboarding game in 1 year. It's never been more over. It's got skateboarding, Jackass-style stunts, Vex-adjacent tame edgy mascot characters, Japanese pop-punk on the soundtrack, hoop jokes. It's actually fairly zeitgeist-defining in some ways, a real product of 2003. So what's the catch? Well, it also just isn't that good. But it is weird and fascinating, with some cool little quirks, so I'm gonna talk about it. Boot it up and be greeted with the most 2000s pop-punk track ever. God, listening to this is like a time machine straight back into 2003. Nothing matters but Sum 41, Avril Lavigne, and coming home from school to watch the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy, or codename Kids Next Door. This game is almost 23 years old now, and you know what they say about when you turn 23. Anyway, let's start the game for real. Man, there's nothing like starting off your piece of media with boring text-side exposition. Wait, no, it's okay when they do it. So the premise of Go-Go Hypergrind is taking the Who Framed Roger Rabbit idea of there being a toon world and a real world, which can coexist, and the toon characters are actors who act in the shows we watch in the real world. It mixes this with a 2000s reality TV and behind-the-scenes Hollywood sort of feel, which was in the zeitgeist at the time. Really think about how many films in particular use the Hollywood behind-the-scenes and reality TV motifs as a source of humor. Shrek 2, Scream 3, Austin Powers, all those horrible spoof movies that came out in the wake of Scary Movie, and of course the GOAT, Freddy Got Fingered. If you haven't already, remember to give your 1 minute of daily applause, and salute to Tom Green pulling off actually getting Freddy Got Fingered made. I still think about this movie like at least once per day. Spumco, the real animation studio behind Ren and Stimpy, and this game's character designs, is presented in-game as looking to revive interest in traditional cell animation with a skateboarding TV show. This game has you choose a character and auditioning to be the star of Go-Go Hypergrind. So meta. Who do you think wrote this? Charlie Kaufman? Hideo Kojima? So let's have a look at this budding cast of Johnny Knoxvilles. Decker's the main dude on the box art. He's very Bam Margera coded actually. Kinda looks like he's got some 2000s edge. Like, whoa dude, you're sagging your pants? You can't do that.
And now they're making Ghostbusters with only women.
What's going on?
This dude's for sure at the skate park blasting Limp Bizkit and trying to sell kids cigarettes he's dipped in PCP. Oh, okay, I see what you guys are doing. We got furry bait on deck. I wonder if anyone out there owes Go-Go Hypergrind for awakening something within them and ruining their future romantic prospects. Just another casualty of society, when society feeds you sexy anthropomorphic animals in your adolescence. Okay, what are we doing here? The Johnson Bros. Alright, I feel like maybe we've seen enough. For sure, all characters that can go alongside my pals from Persona as some of ATLUS's most iconic designs. Let's bring some of them back as personas in Persona 6, I say. Anyway, straight into a tutorial and holy shit, this game feels like ass. Not sure if my guys at ATLUS got on a skateboard to try and better replicate how it feels, but this isn't it. It's floaty and clunky, the sort of controls that if it was like an extra feature in a platformer or something I'd forgive. But this is a skateboarding game, man. Why does it feel so bad to control, especially when you're in the air? It's immediately a big knock against this game's potential claim to be an underrated GameCube pick. So essentially, this is a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater type formula within a contained skate park styled level. The big gimmick for this title is that there are various hazards around each course that you're encouraged to skate into. And with a time press of the X button, you'll have some cartoon violence occur which ups your score and elicits a reaction from the crowd. If you combo tricks and the cartoon violence set pieces together, you'll get a better reaction and so more points. As you progress, your character will likely end up beheaded, on fire, and with holes in them. They keep on trooping though. Gotta keep the combo going, brodies. It's a little bit freaky that their missing body parts don't respawn though, meaning that towards the end of a run they'll look like corpses. As the marketing for this game suggests, this ain't your mama's cartoon skateboard game. We bloodlessly decapitate our skaters. Rated T for teen, baby. Crude. Crazy. Constitutionally protected. Yeah, okay, dude. It's mostly cartoon violence and some puerile jokes. It's hardly South Park. Even Conker's Bad Fur Day did it better on the N64 a couple years prior. So this game's story mode is set up as a tournament where you compete against the other characters in various challenges across each level. These levels are based on a movie genre, and most of them have a studio set feel. I quite like the maps on offer. They feel a bit like they could be Lost Jet Set Radio maps sometimes with this cel-shaded art style. There's enough going on in each, and the variety is effective. Its general look has aged decently too. Toontown sets the tone off right with this huge billboard. Man, the 2000s was so crazy, because you'd just be playing your game and there was always like a 15% chance of something like this showing up with no warning. Though honestly, Go-Go Hypergrind overplays its hand a little bit with the humongous titty billboard and porta potties in the first level, because if it's aiming to provoke a reaction, it never really rises any further above these initial gimmicks. I kinda wish the game was in way worse taste. Live up to the edgy marketing, guys. To get straight to the point on why this game kinda sucks, it feels like something that wasn't really playtested enough. Not in the way that it's buggy, but it just doesn't feel particularly good to play or well thought out in its structure. So you'll approach story mode by tackling a few different game modes across each map one by one. The main one is a score attack mode, just get the biggest score before time's up, typical skateboarding game stuff, and it's not too bad. Similarly, there's one where you aim to get the biggest combo. If you're unlucky, sometimes some random garbage will fly into you and ruin your combo, but mostly it's a serviceable, if fairly shallow, skating game. It definitely can't hold a candle to its Tony Hawk's Pro Skater peers that came out around the same time. Like dude, this was on shelves next to Tony Hawk's Underground. I know which one I'm picking. There's a stage-specific minigame like destroy as many pumpkins or explode as many barrels as possible. These are decent too, though they drop the ball a bit by having the objectives just respawn in quickly and infinitely, meaning these are mostly easy numbers on the board. I feel like these minigames point towards a potential better direction for the game, one where less focus is put on score-based skating, and it was instead more about roaming the map looking for the cartoon set pieces, more like a Jet Set Radio looking for graffiti rather than a Tony Hawk's score attack blueprint. Where the game really started to wear on me though, was the battle and race modes. Battle mode is where you fire weapons at an AI opponent using the C-stick, though you can't move the camera and rely on this janky crazy taxi arrow to try and work out where they are. It feels a bit too random. As much as sometimes it's easy to cheese the AI by camping near them and waiting for their invincibility frames to run out, it's just as easy for them to cheese you by sniping you from behind with no warning. Even worse is this race mode. It's not a race in a traditional sense, but actually just complete randomness. You have to go around the map doing appeals and using the various set pieces, and randomly each different one will assign you either a medal or some sort of item to nerf your opponent. It's totally random which set pieces offer you which items, meaning it's literally a crapshoot. You just gotta skate around spamming buttons and hoping that you can get all 3 medals, and get back to the spawn point before the AI gets some sort of item that resets your progress. Now the randomness of these game modes would be frustrating, but not bad since you can just retry if the AI gets lucky. Oh wait, no you can't. Bizarrely, the story mode has an arcade-style progression system where there are no retries, and this basically means that, if like me, you use the early story stages to get to grips with how the game controls, and don't do that well, you'll end up locked out from progressing later, and have to start the whole story mode over again, including the boring tutorial stage. This sort of locked progression, in tandem with essentially 2 of the matches per stage being a crapshoot, makes the story mode just feel so poorly thought out. It's whatever though, I'll just play through the game again with this sexy cat this time. Was it all worth it to get to the Hong Kong stage? No. Especially not when afterwards I realized that the game had cheat codes that I could have just used to unlock it that way. Also, bro, what is going on with the music for this stage? Is this experimental? While I am feeling a bit negative towards a lot of the gameplay, I do still find enjoyment in the game's general flair. You can unlock these Smash Bros style trophies for each character, for example, and looking into the concept art does show a lot of personality that does come off well in the game. It's a game that's definitely not lacking in effort. In general, the collaboration between an American animation studio and a Japanese game studio is one that's fairly ambitious. While the game itself isn't great, I could see it being a dumb fun game to get a couple of hours of entertainment out of with friends. All the maps are decent enough with some fun ideas in each. Really, the only one I disliked was the jungle, since it was a bit too haphazard to get from area to area. Unfortunately, the story cutscenes are ultra compressed JPEG slideshows and don't offer anything beyond boilerplate Saturday morning cartoon drama. Every character's ending is essentially the same. They win the audition and say thanks. Nothing really that funny or edgy in these cutscenes. I could see myself getting a little bit of mileage out of this as a kid, though despite its standout aesthetic and cartoon gimmicks, it really does pale in comparison to every single Tony Hawk's game from this era. Jet Set Radio blows it out the water too. But still, there's something kinda appealing about this era of games for me. It's so so extremely of the time, and yet also a bizarre one-in-a-million collaboration between two studios known for entirely different mediums and moods. It's got a lot of passion put into it, and while its gameplay doesn't live up to its potential, and its story mode is frustrating, this works decently as a little pick-up-and-play gimmick skate game. So that's Go-Go Hypergrind, one of the oddest GameCube titles, and one that's mostly been lost to time now. Even if you wanted to play it nowadays, you've been priced out by game collectors. Inexplicably, it's actually one of the rarest GameCube games. Maybe ATLUS just didn't know what to do with publishing a game exclusively in the USA, and so it showed up in just a few Walmarts in Montana or something. We gotta start emailing Nintendo, begging them to put this on the Switch 2 GameCube emulator immediately. Funnily enough, ATLUS don't forget what made them though, and Go-Go Hypergrind still has a place in their canon, as you can see from its inclusion on their website. For ATLUS fans, this doesn't really feel like any ATLUS game. It definitely strikes me as way more an American title with some Japanese quirks. It released some middling reviews, including a coveted 5.1 from IGN, but Game Informer says everyone should play this game at least once. Not sure I'd agree. Still, even though it's now been almost fully lost to time and held ransom by sweaty video game collectors, Go-Go Hypergrind really is one of the stranger GameCube games, and a title that has nostalgic value due to being such an era-specific expression of the early 2000s zeitgeist.